Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Q&A. I've been away for a couple of weeks, and it honestly feels really good to be back, refreshed, and I feel ready to go. I'm your newlywed host, Mod Sani, and joining me today are the wonderful Mods Dylan and Oasis. Welcome to you both. How is it going? We'll start with you first, Dylan.
Hi, yeah, very good. Yesterday's launch went really well for me, so I'm pretty chuffed today, actually. Yeah.
Good stuff. And Oasis, how about you?
Yeah, same. You always think the worst when it comes to content launches, like you're going to blow up the servers. And any time we don't do that is a win. And we were on the opposite end of the spectrum to blowing up the servers yesterday, so I can't complain. Been good.
Yeah, honestly, I think it went down really well. Dylan, are you feeling the same? Like, just quite excited about what happened yesterday and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I've been in game and watching people's reactions to it, and just watching people's reactions to it. I mean, yeah, it's just made me super happy. Like people just really taking it on board, seeing people explore the content and trying to explain it to each other to try and get that kind of momentum of what's going on. It really good to see. It almost feels a bit like the old days where no one really knows what the content actually is, so they're all trying to work it out between themselves and muddle through, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, honestly, seeing loads of people like waddling their way with these giant swords around the Foundry was quite a sight, I must say.
Yeah.
All right, so shall we get into some announcements before we jump into the giant section of today's stream? First off, exclamation mark game update. Don't shake your head at me, Oasis. You know it was good. Go on a giant-sized adventure with the newest smithing method. Complete the newest quest, Sleeping Giants, in order to create swords for Kovac, a friendly giant. You can find out more and scale to new heights with Giants Foundry with exclamation mark game update. Exclamation mark mobile FCL with the Android and OIS betas done. What is next? Well, soon we'll be launching our new client fully on mobile, so you can read our blog for more, including an update on ground item markers and other highly requested features. Just as an extra note, we will be closing the iOS closed beta from June 15th. So between now and launching the client to the wider player base, you'll have to head back to the vanilla client on the App Store to continue playing OSRS mobile. And exclamation mark RS Kingdoms. You have less than 24 hours left to support the Kickstarter for RuneScape Kingdoms from our friends at Steamforged Games. You can get all the latest information, update, newest reveals, and check out the Kickstarter by using exclamation mark RS Kingdoms to find out more. With that out of the way, we shall crack on to some questions from you all. So, gather some questions from yesterday's update. There was a Reddit thread and seeing what you guys were saying on socials. So we shall start with some quest and lore related questions. First one from Maljo actually. What is the real explanation or lore for where the smithing gear come from? I'm not buying that Kovac got it from just somewhere.
So there are definitely hints. I'd say hints. It pretty much spells out on the actual armor itself, on the examine text. But it's kind of half in like the mystery box where you're not 100% sure where it comes from, so it's kind of up to your imagination to fill in the blanks. But I mean, if you examine the Smith's tunic, you should get a pretty strong idea.
It's probably best not to ask, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If you think about it, giants aren't the best smiths in the world, but there is a certain race that is. So it might have come from somewhere else in not the nicest fashion.
Yeah, maybe this is why Kovac doesn't really want to go into too much details on it. They're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll let you figure that one out and leave it there. Awesome. Guy who stares at goats asked, the Sleeping Giants quest ends very suddenly. Could you perhaps add a bit of post-quest dialogue to Kovac?
Yeah. It does kind of end suddenly. We had this idea for once you finish making the sword, you have to take it over to Obor, who'd use it to attack like a player spoof as like a final cutscene. But we kind of ran out of time, and that had to be cut. But Kovac's got a fair amount of dialogue on him already, and hopefully, in the future we revisit, Kovac and get some further growth of the character, so that more stuff gets fleshed out, which leads into the next question, right?
It does indeed. So from Phrenixy, is there a possibility for us to see a new quest line coming along with the Giants, or having the Giants tied to another quest line, like the Trollsworth of Dwarven quest line in RS3? I'd really like to see more of Kovac, Obor, the Hill Giants, and the other ones.
Yeah, I think speak for myself and Dylan, where we definitely want to see more, and the rest of the old school team, to see more giant lore. We've not, we've held our cards quite close to our chest for Sleeping Giants. It's not lore heavy. It does hint at potential giant lore that, which is why we wanted a quest to the mini game, not just to kind of teach the player about how the Foundry works, but to establish giants in the world as not just like an NPC you can attack, actual characters with their own lore and dialogue. So this is kind of like hopefully the stepping point into future like giant quests and more content released based around giants. But you know, if you guys, the players, want it.
It's also down to how much the players have got an appetite for it. I mean, if they show there's an appetite for that Giants content, then maybe we can do a lot more of it.
Yeah. And like someone rightly said in chat, there are a fair amount of quest lines that we've not finished. But you know, it's a balancing game, right? Some quests, you know, it makes sense to type old quests, but because there's a couple that are still outstanding, doesn't mean we can't start anything new off. Otherwise, you know, we wouldn't have any of Korend, or you know, Chains of Xeric wouldn't exist and stuff like that. So you know, you've got to balance it.
Yeah, I mean, with the quest porting survey we did, people were pretty keen to see a lot of middle ground for us to go back to old quests, which is you know, exciting for us. But yeah, with the giant stuff, I mean, personally speaking, from what I saw around it, we've discussed in the team, it's very interesting, very, very keen. It might become my favorite in terms of like rankings for me in race lore. So it's good stuff. All right, with that out. Oh, gone. Oh no,
who's your number one race lore? Sorry, you can't just say up there and then not tell us your number one to compare.
Oh, see, it was the goblins. I love the goblins quests and their lore. So you know,
yeah. Okay.
Maybe my bar's set a bit low, but I love it. So, cool. With that out of the way, then we should go on to some general Giant Foundry queues. And the first question, which is from a lot of people, and I've seen something come up in the chat about this. Pet when? I think a lot of people are asking. Specifically in chat, someone said, "Can we get a giant baby or a human-sized giant pet for Giants Foundry? And can we have more variants, please?"
When we started doing this content, we never really thought about a pet, to be honest. And we've stuck with that. We don't think every piece of new skilling content needs a pet. And it didn't really seem to fit at the Giants Foundry too well. And it's just my personal taste. The like human-based pets are a little bit weird. Having like giants, I've seen like a baby version of Kovac, and that's a bit weird. And yeah, it's got to fit the content and it's got to make sense. I think we will eventually come back with more smithing content in the future, and maybe that's when we can do like a smithing pet if it makes sense. It just didn't feel right for the Giants Foundry.
Just want a small version of Kovac with a giant bobblehead. That's all I really want. All right. The next question we have is, how do you actually calculate alloy quality?
I'll field this one. It's something we want to keep secret for now. One of the things I like about computer games is exploration, and it's very difficult to create enough map and world to explore. So this is an area which I think you guys should go and explore on your own. However, if someone publishes the correct algorithm, I will confirm that it is correct for them. I will start by saying the first step of the entire algorithm is to put the bars that you used in most used order. So it will order the bars by most prolific first. That's part of the algorithm.
Interesting. Little hint for you guys. We're only a day in and Dylan's already chucking out hints for you, so you know, what more can you ask for? All right. The next question we have is from Penguins Win Free. Will it be possible for future quest rewards or other content rewards to benefit Giants Foundry? Stuff like more molds or something to make the game more ingrained into the world.
It's something we talked about in development, was adding more molds to other other content in the game whereby maybe after finishing Doric's Anvil, maybe Doric might have a mold for you that you could use here. So we had considered that, and the mold system actually does have space currently for yet higher tiers of molds and are currently released. So we could put more. As you've probably already noticed, you can't actually get that bar to 100% full at the moment because there are extra molds that could be released into the game. Watch this space for when they come.
Ooh. Dylan's coming on here teasing all the stuff today. I like it. I'm liking this. Right, Loglid said, could we have the ability to store bars in the Crucible and select an alloy ratio? For example, 400 myth bars and 600 addy bars stored. Smith of Freeform with 14 addy and 14 myth alloy.
Yeah, this is another one we talked about during development and design. We didn't really want to make a place where you could just store like hundreds of bars and then like either in a molten form or like just like a bar rack and you just add like 5, 10, whatever. And having some kind of interface that like worked nicely to do that all. It got pretty complicated. So the halfway point was the bank chest being really close by, and then just being able to, take out however much you need from the bank chest. Because you still need something nearby for, pieces of armor and weapons. So it doesn't solve that issue. And we didn't want to just add another storage place because they're not, some players are against them, some players are for them. They're not the most straightforward thing in the world.
All right, thank you for that, Oasis. The next question we have is TilD2T. What are some memorable bloopers or bugs during the production of this activity?
Development was pretty clean on the whole, wasn't it?
Yeah, not a lot. It feels like it was done in such a short amount of time. There was a lot of chance for things to pop up. When we didn't have like the assets for Kovac, I think I just used the old fire giant heads. So that was quite funny to see like a big red face sharp when you tried to talk to Kovac. And there's this weird bug that we always fix before it goes live. But the color of your hair, if there's a piece of armor on the player that has the same color value as the hair of the player, when you change your hair color, it'll change the color value of that piece of armor. So, the smithing outfit is like yellowy, but if you have pink hair, it changes all the yellow to pink. So you can get some really weird effects. It's come up in the past, and that's like the only like major one I can think of. Yeah.
So it's always quite, I think for players, always quite interesting to hear what goes on behind the scenes in terms of like funky stuff. There's always something that happens funky. I feel like
this
we
was
need to
pretty
do
clean compared to most, I feel.
Yeah. I feel like we need to do some sort of like maybe small video about like some of the funkiest bugs we've had.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started, the spider vampire stuff that happened in Mauritania.
Oh god!
That was one of the first updates I was in on. So
that was my fault as well. I remember logging into all the worlds and just killing a bunch of vampires before they like killed players. That was quite funny.
All right, awesome. The next one we have is from a user. Their name's been redacted. The colours on the HUD seem too vibrant. Is there any way of changing this by toning the colours down slightly?
I expect that it won't be too long before RuneLite obviously has the dark mode version for the skin, so I should imagine that'll get replaced in dark mode version of the skin. The colours were chosen specifically by our art team to be the most user-friendly to the widest variety of people to use, so that for certain colorblind natures they come out as 3 different shades of grey, and for other colorblind people they should work as well. So they were chosen very specifically to be what they are. I appreciate they are quite bright and primary compared to other, and maybe even plastic looking compared to other RuneScape things, but they were chosen to be those colours for specific reasons.
Yeah, awesome stuff. If there are any colorblind people actually that feel like the colors are they're not quite as distinctive, please feel free to let us know, because we'd love to make sure that you guys can see it as clearly as possible. All right, the next question we have is from Tipsy Lights. For Giants Foundry, what level do you need to have to use different bars? Like, is it based on your ability to smelt them? Like, if I can smelt an adamant but not rune, can I only go up to adamant, or can I just use rune stuff at any level?
You have to have the base level to use the bar, so 85 for rune, 70 or 75 for adamant. But when we were, rebalancing to get the final XP rates, what's quite nice is the Giants Foundry. Once you hit 85, you're already getting the best rates you can get out of rune. Whereas in normal smithing, you only get those best XP rates when you hit 99, which is a huge gap, right? Same for adamant, same for mithril. You come in at the start, you hit that level, your guns are blazing. Instead of having to work all the way up another 15 levels or whatever to get to the peak of that metal.
Cool, awesome stuff. All right, Cucumber Flant said, are the commissions we get purely random, or are there weights on which can show up?
There aren't any weights as such, but it is designed so that you would never get a light heavy sword, for example, or a spiky straight commission. You'll never get, but there isn't any weighting towards any particular sets.
Stuff. All right, and another user speaking about the UI said, can we make the UI Foundry smaller in fixed mode? Right now it takes up a third of the screen.
Right, okay, so it is difficult to make it readable at much less, I would suggest. So the width, if you make it narrower on the width, you're actually going to reduce the amount of pixels that you've got of warning as you're approaching the end of heat zones. So making it narrower, I would suggest, would make the game more difficult to play, and vertically decreasing its height. Now, we could decrease the space in between the bars maybe by a few pixels each one, but I'm not sure that's going to save us a vast amount of space. And I mean, the bars are the pixel height of the icons, and the icons, if they were made any smaller, they would become unreadable. So I think realistically we may be able to make it like 10 pixels smaller, maybe, but I don't think it's going to make the world of a difference for the player who's requesting this.
I think, unfortunately, because it's quite a key element of the minigame, like, reducing your access to it would be, in fixed mode, would just make it far more worse experience for you than probably,
Yeah, it'd make it more difficult to read what was going on. It'd make it more confusing, I feel, if you had less space than you've currently got.
Thank you, Dylan.
Interestingly, though, go for it. The interface does scale very nicely for different screen resolutions. So if you play in non-fixed mode at the very high resolutions, it's also incredibly readable, because we increase the heights of the different bars and things like that to make it more readable for large screen resolutions.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Nars Muse asks, could we get a better indication, more or less, of when states are changing with maybe a bit of leeway? Currently, it feels very punishing. You can't look away for even a second, because you have to click on basically the exact tick where it goes over, or you'll get damaged. It's fine while this is a fun, novel activity, but it's going to get old fast.
Maybe. My position here is maybe trying to be 100% effective with your temperature boundaries isn't actually the way to be 100% efficient in the game. And I say this not only from your experience here, but also imagine if you're approaching the boundary of your heat range and you get that sweet spot kick in. you're going to miss it because you're right on the edge of your sweep. So you're probably better going for a reheat a tick early, or going for a cooldown a tick early, rather than trying to get it bang on that 100%. I want to be as efficient as I can, because actually it's going to make you less efficient.
Yeah, it has only been the first day. I don't know how much people in chat have played the content. Maybe you've just tried it out a little bit, but it will be a case of you'll probably get used to when you need to come off and when it will feel right to get the most efficiency out of it. All right, Kriya HS asks, why is there a penalty for perfectly positioning the preform right before the sword transition temperatures? Currently, if you're about to swap from one temperature to another and the yellow box appears to gain double completion, if it ticks over to the next temperature, you will lower the quality of your blade.
I'm a bit confused here. I think there may be something that we've not seen in testing that people are seeing, because if you're actually losing quality and you're using the right tool, i.e. the tool is lit up correctly and you are using the right tool within the right temperature, you should not be losing any quality. So I think maybe there might be something really, really super rare, or you're missing a click. We'll look into it at our end, but if you could give us more information about that, exactly how often you're seeing it, because I don't think it should work like that. Obviously,
You can.
Yeah, Phil.
The sweet spots can also appear. You've done your last action with a tool, and that pushes you into the next tool you need to use. A sweet spot can appear when it's gone over, which just means
I think that's bad luck. I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it means you're going to miss it. We talked about trying to avoid that, but the code for how those sweet spots works is already really complicated, and having something that steps in to avoid, a buffer around the end of each tool would just complicate it far too much. So, if it appears at the end, unlucky.
Yeah, but the actual loss of quality, that sounds like an issue. You shouldn't be losing quality from, as long as you've got the right temperature highlighted and the right tool highlighted, you should not lose any quality. So that there may be something there.
Yeah, if anyone has any clips of it, just so we can do proper deep dive onto it, please feel free to @me with your clips, because we want to make sure that this isn't a big issue and we're not missing something major. So yeah, please do. Okay, Zach Flame asks whether it will be via variable gameplay, i.e. spike swords requiring an extra step in their creation, or via visual design, i.e. having a different preform shape based on your mold. Was there a point in development where there was more to the mold mechanic? If not, would you like to expand on it in such ways?
I'll grab that last part first, and then I'll go back to the visual design. I've seen a few people kind of comparing this to ceremonial swords in RS3. And to be fair, that's kind of where the idea started from. We're like, could we do something kind of similar to ceremonial swords? But then we just got further and further away. We wanted it to be a far more interactive thing than just, clicking on an interface. And that's why you're running around the Foundry. But the mold setup is that, that part of it still, where you have to kind of set up your sword and go from there. But having different preforms based on your molds, there's about 30 molds, 3 parts, so it's 30 cubed. So it needs like 27,000 individually config swords, or maybe not that, or a ludicrously high number, just to represent every possible sword combination you have. And when we add more molds, that just makes it even worse. Maybe there's a middle ground where it's just like, okay, this is a spiked sword. This sword is mostly spiked, so we'll have a preform to shape it. But projects have a limited art budget. We couldn't put thousands of hours into a relatively medium-sized skilling update, where it could have been spent elsewhere, better elsewhere, aka raids free. basically. So that's why there's only the one freeform look.
Oh, awesome stuff. Thank you, Oasis. Pro Gabin asked, any chance we can get rid of the animation at the end of the smithing the sword? It's a little annoying having to wait on that to finish before you can turn in the sword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So oh, sorry, you can go for that one. Yeah.
We're going to trim it down, make it a little bit, a fair bit shorter, I hope. And we're only going to play it if you make the perfect sword, which, ideally, that would happen every time. But hopefully, it only being like 1 or 2 server cycles long, has a little bit of flair, shouldn't be too annoying and hold you up too much, just to show your efforts and give you that little satisfying crunch at the end of making that sword.
I might even be able to walk merge that animation if we cut it down enough and things. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Yeah, that was brought up in today's feedback session. So yeah, it's something we are looking into. So do not worry. Noob Tablet 9 asks, right now some molds are just straight up upgrades from others. I obtained the Defender's tip, for example, which is just better than the Saw tip I had. Could the upgraded molds replace the existing ones instead of having them both shown on the list?
I wouldn't like to hide any of the molds that are on the list personally, but scrolling down to the bottom of the list to find your ones that you want could be a bit annoying repeatedly every time you go to a list. So we could make the list reverse order so that the highest level are at the top and the lowest level are at the bottom. If there's an appetite for that, that might make, that's just like one action less during the setup process. It could make it a little bit more streamlined for you. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of yeses popping up there. So, okay, yeah, we'll be doing that then.
Yes, yeah. I mean, chat is fully agreed. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. That looks like a definite that will be that'll be expected next update then.
Cool, awesome stuff. All right, from the general questions, we've got a couple about rewards specifically. FitMed Cook asked, why was the bar bag that holds 27 bars scrapped as a reward idea? Any chance it'll be added to later or to different content?
Excuse me. When we kind of sat down and actually did the maths for the interactions with the bar box and just going out and doing smithing, it actually turned out to be like negligible, if not slower, to use the bar box. Whereas if you just manage your inventory better in the long run, it's more efficient. But that being said, I think it could be used somewhere else. To be honest, most people were actually asking for an ore box so that you can like AFK mining for longer, which I think is a better reward, but not a reward that should have come from Giant's Foundry, because Giant's Foundry is very specifically smithing, but the second half of smithing, which is like the production side, so it giving a mining reward didn't feel quite right. But it's definitely something for the future, just to like put in the bag and hold on to it for another piece of content.
Awesome stuff. All right, Runner 5678 asked, as costed at 1 catalyst per bar, it's just too expensive to go out of your way for it. Is the team considering buffing the catalyst, or are they happy where it sits?
I think once the dust has settled a little bit from the release, we'll have a little look at how it's balancing out, and I think maybe we could look at the cost of it for the Giant's Foundry points, but I'm pretty happy with how it works, as in how it physically does its job in game. It's just maybe it's a little bit too much work to get one, but I think we'll have a little look at that after the dust has settled and we can see what's going on.
All right, nice. The local neckbeard has asked, can we please get the ability to Trova Parchment the Colossal Blade, or the ability to buy it back from Purdue?
I've actually finished coding that today, so hopefully it'll be in next week's update. We're going with the Purdue side. Just from my opinion, the Trova system is one of the worst systems to tie into. So you'll be able to buy it back from Purdue when you lose it, or you can go to the Foundry and like earn another one if you lose it. And it'll be a little bit more expensive than the barrel chest anchor, because I think for like 60 attack pures is actually like the best in slot KO weapon. So that's why it's going to be a little bit more expensive. But yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah, so don't worry, all the PvPers and PKers out there, you will be able to get it back a little bit easier, which is nice. Relnif asks, could we give the Colossal Blade an extra tile range like the Halberd? Right now, it doesn't feel all that colossal.
Go ahead, Dylan.
Oh, okay. Well, if we gave it a tile range like the Halberd, and then you look at what the special is, which is hitting effectively 1 extra hit for every square that the thing, isn't that the Dragon Halberd? Or what the Dragon Halberd was originally. I think, as I understand, it's changed over the years and it's just a double hit now. But originally, that is exactly what it would actually make the Halberd completely, the Dragon Halberd completely pointless. So let's keep the Dragon Halberd having its own unique use. And in fact, I think Halberds in general having their own unique use.
Yeah, we've got the scaling attack based on NPC size, which like makes it the giant killer, which is where the name Colossal comes from. And unless it, we introduce some like crazy AoE attack as a special, but that's probably going too far as well. It's quite cool where it sits right now, and it'd be interesting to see how it goes and if there's any tweaks that need to be made to it along the way.
Yeah, I think I've referenced this in either a Gazette or one of the iterations of the Giants Foundry poll blogs, but to consider where we came from with this weapon, which was just a cosmetic override for the Hill Giant Club, and to now see it as its own standalone thing with like a special effect, it's quite interesting to see that leap.
And also best in slot for certain things as well. So yeah.
Which actually goes on to this next point, which Oasis, I know you spoke about, is where does the team believe the Colossal Blade is worth using?
Yeah, like I said, it's already found its niche in PvP, which we didn't think it'd have like a ton of uses. But I think it's going to be cool in some bosses. I think players will find some decent use in like quest bosses or other larger ones in the world. It's not crazy. It's not going to overwrite like things like the Abyssal Whip and stuff, or even the Bludgeon, I think. But I think there'll be some places on the bigger NPCs where it's like, that's pretty cool. I'll bring it and I could get some big damage off. And it looks pretty sick, so I imagine
I can see me flinching some big NPCs with it.
Yeah.
Maybe when hard mode Obor comes out, then it'll be
yeah,
it'll be the one.
But it did bring up an interesting point during development. I think this was more a me thing than anything, but it was kind of daunting introducing something like turning the Colossal Blade into a sword that's going to be useful, especially considering it comes from skilling content and not like PVM where a lot of the other weapons come from. But based on the reception we've seen from the players, you guys seem happy to have like a weapon that doesn't just come from pure PVM. So it might set a precedent for like content in the future where these kind of interesting skilling updates can introduce kind of more unique weapons to kind of mix things up a bit more, if there's the desire for it in the future based on this.
Awesome stuff. All right, I am crazy. One says it feels like spending 4,000 plus points on all the molds is redundant when you can just spend those points on rewards instead. As far as I understand, it's about 15% more points with the best molds. How are the mold prices decided on?
Oh, right. Well, I've made some notes on this question. I've answered the question slightly differently to how it's asked, but I think that if you're just here at the Giants Foundry and all you want is to get the best kit, so that you can get on with whatever it is you would do. You're already level 99, and you probably just want to get back to your 3.5k an hour XP somewhere else. So I think realistically there, you just want to go for the kit. The molds are there for people who want to take part in this content repeatedly and get the most out of this content every day. If that's not you, then maybe you should kind of go for the kit and go for the ammo mold, the cannonball ammo mold, and get cannonball making. As for how will the prices come up with, we kind of came up with an amount of time for all of the rewards of how much time we expected a player to put in, and we thought that about quarter of an hour a mold seemed like a reasonable time for a player to put in to unlock something that's going to make their game experience a little bit more rewarding over time.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thank you very much, Dylan. I'm just going to chuck in a chat question because I've seen it pop up a couple of times. Can we get some clarification on how the Smith set works inside the minigame? This chat user said I have 2 out of the 4 pieces and it doesn't seem to do anything.
So every piece of just to recap the core of what the outfit is. Every piece of the smithing outfit you wear gives you a 20% chance for something to happen, and that stacks. And then when you wear the entire kit, it's 100% chance for it to happen. So when you're inside the Foundry, every time you use a tool like the grindstone, polishing wheel, or trip hammer, it rolls that chance, like 20% chance, 40%, 60, or 100% chance. And if that passes, you'll get a little bit more completion from that tool. So your completion bar goes up a little bit more than it would if that roll had failed, or if you weren't wearing the outfit at all. It'll become, you'll feel it a lot more when you're wearing the whole outfit, because 100%, is every time, and it does speed up the time to make a sword. It's not massive.
I think a full set will actually allow you to skip certain heat cycles, won't it? If you've got a full set, you can do certain things without and skip a heating cycle or a cooling cycle.
Yeah. Like I think you could probably do like the trip hammer right at the start without having to heat the sword back up again, potentially. But it can shave off like 30 seconds off the sword creation time when you're wearing the full outfit. So yeah, that's what it does. That makes sense, if that's helpful.
Yeah, 30 seconds over multiple swords is quite a bit of time saved, I would imagine. So, all right, back onto the questions we have is from Krubus LOL. Is there any possibility to add more rewards in the upcoming weeks? Right now, I have 8k points on the day of release. I'm going to get my outfit and cannon mold tomorrow, likely, and then I have no reason to ever come back to play that minigame because there aren't any rewards. And I get better XP at doing other methods of training.
I'll echo what Dylan said. We currently don't have any plans to add more rewards to the Giants Foundry. Maybe further down the road, where something kind of pops up and we're like, oh, that'd be a good reward. Let's add it in, like via like a poll 78 or whatever. But we think there's enough variety. We've got consumables in there, like the catalyst and the ore packs as a way to spend your points on, and we aimed the content to take roughly 15 hours. It was a big piece of feedback for us when we were working out the cost of all the rewards. After hearing players' thoughts on Guardians and the Rift, that it took a little bit too long to earn all the rewards. So we kind of narrowed that down to 15 hours with the idea that the average game time for a person is about 2 hours per day. So it's like a week of grinding, and then you get all the rewards. And if you want to get better XP elsewhere, go ahead, it's fine. But we definitely think the XP rates at Giants Foundry are strong enough to keep players there who just want to keep getting experience and grinding and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, from a personal standpoint, like playing it in the playtest and then also doing it in live game, I found much more enjoyment taken out of this, even if the XP rates are lower than Blast Furnace with Goldsmith's Gauntlets and stuff. And I saw the time fly by much quicker doing it in the Giants Foundry than I did Blast Furnace. because I went
We're hearing
from
that a lot.
65. Yeah, I went from 65 to 70 while I was off, just so I could do a couple of quests. And doing Blast Furnace was like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not meant to be a replacement. It's meant to be. They're meant to complement each other, if anything, because they're two different ends of the same thing. One is the creation aspect, and one is the consumption aspect. So they're not meant to be against each other. They're meant to complement each other.
Awesome. All right. RJM 0007. Could ore packs scale with your mining level and give ores accordingly? There's already tons of ways to get coal. Would be nice if ore packs were a bit more rewarding.
I think the most important thing with these ore packs is we didn't want the Giants Foundry to be a self-fueling piece of content. Wherein you make a couple swords, you buy some ore packs, and now you have enough to make more swords and buy more ore packs and keep going. Originally, in all honesty, they were just intended as a way for players to spend those extra points and get some value back and a little bit of GP on top of the GP you get from the game. Similar, like the thing to compare against is the supply boxes from Mahogany Homes. Similar vein of thought from those. So no, we don't plan to add scaling. Whereas we could look at the ratios of which ores are given out in the future to make them if they're not generous enough or if it feels a little bit lacking just on the basic standpoint. But scaling is something that I don't think we ever want to approach with ore packs.
Cool. Thank you very much, Oasis. All right. Giorgio 0 asks, could the Colossal Blade be made tradable?
I've got a note that says no ! Here. Our thinking here is, look, the Colossal Blade is a reward for people participating in this content. Yeah, if you're not participating in this content, then you shouldn't really just be able to buy it. Yeah, it's something for people who are playing.
Or for context in the script, there was a word before no, but I added a little note just to maybe amend it a little bit. So, all right. Last question about the rewards specifically. Could you please add the molds to the collection log? Feels weird they aren't in there, but purchasable in the shop.
We thought about it. So it's a bit weird. They don't actually exist as items anywhere, and the collection log only takes items. So we'll have to come up with a generic item. As long as you're happy with it looking in the collection log, they won't look like they do in the nice interface that we've got showing them off. They'll be pretty generic. I reckon we could probably add it to the collection log. If there's appetite for that, why not?
Yeah, awesome stuff. Yeah, we'll see how players. If we get any more feedback around that, because it'd be nice to know how many people want them in the collection log versus no, only the items we have in there are fine. But I see
all the things that are like really important, I think, are in the collection log, like the kit and the ammo mold and stuff like that. They're all in there. I guess it gives those people who just want to get their kit and then get back to what they're doing. It gives them a chance to get back to what they're doing without having to work too hard and get a load of stuff that isn't going to make a difference to their gameplay, realistically speaking. Yeah.
Cool, awesome. All right, then we're going to go sort of switch a bit from Giants Foundry, just the general smithing questions. We've got a couple. I think we can get through them all, actually. So the first one is from Cupcake Kieran. And they ask, at the last Giants Foundry Q&A, Mod Oasis mentioned that this was the smaller of the 2 skilling updates planned for the year, and how Giants Foundry helped the dev team consider ways to rework smithing. Is there anything you can share about the potential larger update and possibly your plans to address smithing on a larger scale? Oasis, since you've been called out, you might as well take it away.
Yeah, I've kind of put myself in an awkward position. When we were designing the Giants Foundry, we came up with another mini game that we thought would be awesome. And at the time, there were plans for a second skilling update to come along. But as these things often do, it's changed. I probably shouldn't have, said this back at the time, but who cares? The roadmap's been swapped around, and this year's been pretty strong for skilling updates so far. Obviously, there's room for more. We want to redo smithing as a whole and stuff. But as far as I know, the second skilling update, at least for this year, has been put on hold. But the other half, which is reworking smithing, we kind of clocked onto, and maybe maybe this is pretty obvious to everyone else, but smithing is definitely a skill of two halves, the smelting and the smithing side. And after thinking about it and talking about it, we reckon you could probably do a fairly decent sized smithing rework, which is just the creation side and turning it into metals and stuff, and then do the smelting side. But then on top of all of that, you would also have to address mining. But just breaking it down into smaller problems means it's a much more manageable update that wouldn't take years for us to kind of get out. But I think we would have to make piecemeal updates, which over time will address it. But if we got the community aboard along with the idea of the whole, and as it went on, we could work through all the different ways to refactor smithing into something that isn't ridiculously unbalanced, where you're making a dragon plate body at level 70 or whatever, and then a rune plate body at level 99. It would, we want to do it because it doesn't make sense. It's pointless.
But one of the big problems, and what this idea has actually allowed us to split from, is when we were looking at reworking smithing, it was it's not just the case of reworking smithing and the levels which you can do things. It's like looking at nearly every drop table in the game, because these all feed into what levels you can start getting large amounts of ores, and so it's a much bigger job than just let's rebalance smithing. It's looking at a large percentage of different things, different content in the game, and working out how that values and how that's going to affect the GE prices of things as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, again, smithing as a whole is a very interesting skill, to say the least. So yeah, there's still, maybe in time we'll have that second part for you, but we'll see when that comes to, if it does in the near future. All right, I'm not Zezima. YT ask, is the team still reviewing the recycle mechanic to allow for some items to be more efficient to melt than to alch? And then in brackets they put for mains or irons.
The formula we've got now, which is pretty easy to understand, is whatever it costs to make it, plate body 5, battle axe 2 or 3. When you chuck it in the crucible, it's that -1 across the board. This question does say for some items, I don't think we'd want to write any specific cases in there. We also didn't want you to be able to just take stacks of stackable items like darts and then just chuck loads of them in. It detracted away from the minigame a bit. So we said no to that. I mean, if players really wanted to, we could let you chuck them into the crucible, but because the crucible consumes at least 1 bar worth of material, they'll get melted down into nothing. So it could be a way to just get rid of items. But yeah, that is the mechanic. It is whatever it costs -1, and adding a bunch of exceptions and be well, if I chuck in 100 darts, then it's okay. We don't want to do that. We're really happy with it being weapons and full helms and plate bodies. It works really nicely, and the -1 means that you're still better off alching on the whole. But if you really want that XP and the value that the minigame has in the rewards, chuck them in the Foundry.
I mean, don't you get 15 darts for 1 bar anyway? So if you put in 1 dart, if you put in a stack of darts and you use 1 bar, that means you'd end up with -14 bars in there.
We could do that,
Yeah, we'll put -14 bars in your.
Oh, 10 darts, so it's 9.
Oh, that's
you
10
end up with
darts.
9. Yeah, but it's same principle. Yeah. Maybe just put like a 0.0001% chance to earn like 1 bar of metal for every dart you put in.
Wouldn't be worth the clicks, but yeah.
All right. Nicholas Greenberg asked, do the devs ever consider creating a new method for skilling that actually ends up as the best XP per hour? We've seen PVM introduce new best in slot gear, but skills get mini games, some very fun that are never meta defining outside of hallowed Sepulchre.
I think you could kind of argue that the mini games we have introduced are meta defining in that they allow you to do something that's not the most tedious training method in the world. But that aside, we definitely do look at, does this content deserve to be best in slot? And when we're looking at smithing, the entire time we're just like, Goldsmith Gauntlets at Blast Furnace is such ridiculously high experience. We can't really touch that. We'd be looking at like 400k an hour in the Foundry to just surpass it. So it was something we didn't think we could do. It was too much of a stretch for the Foundry, and just how the content works. You're getting through so much material at the Blast Furnace. It makes sense for that XP to be so high, whereas Foundry is quite a fair bit slower. And we're already pushing it quite far with the experience you get per bar. So it's definitely the most bang for your buck. And another important thing to note is Giants Foundry wasn't designed to be the best thing to do at 99. It was a piece of content that would jump in on what we call the player's journey. So from level 1 to 99 smithing, a player is on a journey doing different pieces of content along the way. And we wanted the Giant Foundry to slot in at multiple points. Once you get steel and mithril, you can jump back, and then Blast Furnace overtakes it when you get gold. But you might not have Goldsmith Gauntlets, and then the Giant Foundry jumps back in, and it kind of jumps in and out at which is better content. And from the looks of it and how things are kind of playing out and the balancing we've done, it looks like it is going to become a piece of like the player's journey through from level 1 to 99, which is exactly what we wanted. And I'm really pleased about that. Yeah.
I would honestly say, even if people wouldn't define, especially the newer minigames, skilling minigames we've done as meta defining, I think they've at least defined a journey, like you say, Oasis, on the skills. Like Todd, I mean, is a big example anyway, because I mean, Winter Todd, who does fire making regularly after 50, Temporos is a great mini game in my opinion, like fantastic. And Guardians of the Rift also like completely new way to do runecrafting, and that makes it even more fun. So like Giants Foundry is fitting this nice little gap that the team wanted to do all along, which we feel like it sits where we wanted it to be, and nicely. So
there's a lot more at play than just making something the best XP per hour. I think I might be wrong, but Mahogany Homes isn't the best XP per hour for construction, but the alternative is getting RSI from doing making paper racks and stuff like that. So being able to do something that's like far more enjoyable, hopefully, makes up for it, especially when you chuck in the rewards as well as a little sprinkle on top.
These poor tables that keep getting made and thrown away in both, not only like your player-owned houses, but in the Mahogany Homes as well. Like you go and make a home, and then they've trashed it again. They've replaced all your furniture like 10 minutes later. I want to know where all this goes. All right. The last question we have is from it's Aiden. Is it possible if, when putting plate bodies and other stuff into the Crucible, the all option could be maybe replaced with a fill option, or the X option would be remembered the previous amount?
Yeah, sure. I can make the X option remember the previous amount pretty easily. So yeah, that'll do. We'll do that. Job done.
Easy,
I'm
easy
thank
win on
you.
the last question. All right, okay, that is it for all the questions. I say we go through some player-created content before showing you something else just before we wrap up. So first we have Gen 2 OSRS from Thala Siren, I think it is. Wow, how so? I mean, any Pokemon crossover with this is, as you probably couldn't tell, is a win in my book.
Is the player the Pokemon, or what Pokemon would the player have in this instance, right?
Yeah, I think this is like, when the trainer comes in first, and then you
Oh, of
throw
course,
the.
yeah.
So
I'm such
maybe
a
the taken from your Game Jam idea, Oasis, the Stray Dog power up.
I remember a few
Like,
years ago we were going to do an April Fools of like Pokemon in old school, like just a blog. I don't think that ever saw the light of day, but that was actually pretty funny to read.
Oh, I know what I'm doing for next April then, 100%. All right, we have the Mithril Skim Tattoo by Strange Ink. Nice little party hat in there and Cosmic Rune. Nice.
I like the shine it's got on that top edge.
That's really nice.
That's pretty killer.
It's very, very cool. Very cool. The next one we have from Hexo OSRS is Facing the Zuck.
Whoa!
I'm loving these designs. All the new like pieces of artwork we're getting using these the 3D rendering models are fantastic.
I mean, that could have come out of our own marketing team, couldn't it? That's amazing.
Very, very good. Very, very good. And then we have from Higher Elo Creative, In Case I Need a Quick Telly.
Oh, that's cool.
Very nice, very nice.
I mean, Britain technically does exist in RuneScape, right? With King Arthur's castle, so maybe that could actually work. See where it takes me.
Okay, interesting. All right. And the last one is for a little voidy boy from Leander the Chair. I butchered that, so I apologize, but looks great. Looks great. Your artwork looks great.
Super cute.
Very cute. I feel like he's gonna like start animating, like it's like ready to go.
Gives me Ed, Edd and Eddy vibes. With like the collar look and stuff like that.
Yeah, Ralph's actually under there, just waiting to scream at the boys. All right, and then the last thing we got to show is just a couple of, with 24 hours left to go on the RuneScape Kingdoms Kickstarter, we thought we'd give you a sneak peek at just some things that were sent our way. So production, if we can. So, seeing some Zuck toe action going on there. There's a painted version of the Zuck model from RuneScape Kingdoms.
These models
the paintwork on it is fantastic. So the models won't be painted like this, just as a preference to prefix. You will have to paint them yourself, but you could go nuts and paint them how you want. So that kind of gives you the freedom, I suppose. All right. And then we have this very, very cool player in full dragon there. I think we've got two sides of it. There we go. So he's a true PVMer at heart. And then finally,
Dragon Shield. Ooh.
I know. Hoi, hoi. And finally, I think we have just a couple more painted versions by a couple of people that Mr. Shy and Mod Alex. So these are some painted versions of the models, which are all fantastic. To be honest, they're painted really, really nicely.
Yeah, I do mini painting as well, and I was really jealous that Mod Alex got these early to paint up, and I really want to paint them myself.
I was actually going to ask this. How would you rate them? Because I know you're a painter yourself. So how would you rate them?
I'm going to go really nerdy because why not? Getting those gradients that the guys that Mod Alex and that Mr. Shy has got on Zuck's a great example of that, crimson red down to the dark red. So smooth. It's really hard to do, and it looks incredible.
Yeah, I'll be spraying mine black and dry brushing them, and that'll be me.
Awesome. So we've got thumbs up, I think, from everyone here. So that's good stuff. I don't think we've got any more, have we, production? Oh, no, we do. Just a little teaser to saying less than 24 hours to go, guys. So, use !RS Kingdoms to find out more. Follow the Kickstarter if you haven't already. And go and find out just everything you want to know about RuneScape coming to the tabletop. Very exciting.
Got mine ordered.
Hey, nice. All right. And with that done, I'll just go over the other two announcements very quickly. Exclamation mark game update. You can go on a giant-sized adventure with the newest skilling method. Complete the quest Sleeping Giants in order to create swords for Kovac, a friendly giant, and you can find out more whilst you scale to new heights with Giants Foundry. And exclamation mark mobile FCL. With Android and iOS betas done, what's next for us? Well, we'll be launching our new client fully on mobile very soon. So read our blog for more, and you'll get an update on ground item markers and other highly requested features. And just like I said at the beginning of the stream, for anyone on the iOS closed beta, that will be closing on June 15th. So between now and launching the client to the wider player base, you'll have to head back to the vanilla client on the App Store to continue playing OSRS Mobile. And that is it. Any last words from you, Mod Dylan, or you, Mod Oasis?
Oh, thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, seeing everyone's reactions and just being in the Foundry, and just watching players discover how the content works and sharing that information and passing it all around was awesome to see. Like Dylan said earlier, there's not a lot of exploration in old school anymore. So just seeing players discover things, and there's definitely still more to discover over the next couple of weeks as people nail it down. But I'll definitely be watching a lot of close attention.
Awesome stuff. So thank you once again to Mods Dylan and Oasis for coming and joining us for this Q&A. Thank you to Mod Spear behind the scenes, as always, doing a cracking job. And thank you to all the mods in chat for doing amazing work, as always. And finally, thank you to you all for tuning in and watching. Go and play Giants Foundry if you haven't already. It's fantastic. Do the quest, discover a little bit more about Kovac, the friendly giant, and go and have some fun. Go and have some fun. With that said, I've been your host, Mod Sani, and we will see you in the next one.